the sarcasm!
Sarcasm?
Boy, are we so lucky we ran into you guys!
Boy, are we so lucky we ran into you guys!
Wow, those guys are jerks.
Greetings and salutations, guys. Eric here with my review of Inside Out 2, a sequel 9 years in the making, which is not that unusual in the sort of Disney animated / Pixar animated realm to take that long for a sequel. Once again, though, this movie is about the emotions inside a girl named Riley's head. It's a couple years later. Riley is 13 in this movie, and she's hit puberty, which was kind of set up at the end of the first film. And with her hitting puberty is a bunch of new emotions that have now sort of invaded the space, invaded the headquarters, where our friendly and familiar emotions from the first film were already situated, and now find themselves kicked out of her headquarters, because these new emotions, which include ennui, embarrassment, envy, and their leader, anxiety, have taken over and have taken control of Riley, because this is a fraught time in any young person's life, Riley included. Now, joy and the other returning emotions must make their way back to headquarters, and if that sounds familiar, it's because this is a very similar scenario to the first film. This is definitely rehashed territory as far as sequels go, in that the first film was joy and sadness were accidentally sent out of the headquarters and needed to find their way back. This time it's all 5 of the emotions from the first movie are purposely sent out of the headquarters and have to find their way back. So pretty similar framework. Some of the places they go are places we saw in the first movie, though things happen differently. Sometimes they go to completely different places, but not really breaking huge ground as far as what is going to happen to the emotions of the movie. And maybe that's just a limitation of this series, because they really can't leave Riley unless things get really, really strange. And I don't think they want to go that far. But I will say, this is done well. It is crucially still quite a funny movie. It's maybe a bit more scattershot. I do think that there are some jokes that don't land, and there's definitely a feeling of kind of try hard about this movie at points. But by and large, it's legitimately funny, and there are some big highlights to that. Perhaps my favorite sequence in the movie involves the emotions locked in a vault that contains Riley's secrets. And there's just a lot of hysterical things that happen there, and characters they encounter, and it's really cool how those characters all have different animation styles to them. And I have to give a special shout out to Pouchy, who is my favorite character in this movie, voiced by SNL's James Austin Johnson. I don't want to say too much except to say look out for Pouchy, because he's pretty amazing. It's a fun adventure movie, It never gets as intensely upsetting as the first one did, as far as the bing bong of vanishing into nothingness that the first one decided to throw at all of us and traumatize us. But it still is definitely involving and fun and funny. The cast are great. It's once more centered on Amy Poehler and Phyllis Smith as joy and sadness. But it really also provides a terrific spotlight for Maya Hawke. She voices anxiety, and she brings exactly the right manic energy to this character who has to live up to that name. And I think really this is the first time I've heard Hawke do a voiceover role. She is just as excellent as she's been in all of her live action performances. I was a little let down that the national treasure that is Ayo Edebiri doesn't have more to do as the voice of Envy. She has a couple fun moments, but it seems like, she's a little bit just kind of thrown in. You'd think that they would give her more to do, but oh well. It's a crowded brain that Riley has in this film. Lewis Black is still fun as Anger. It is a little distracting that Bill Hader and Mindy Kaling have been replaced by Tony Hale and Liza Lapira as Fear and Disgust, respectively, especially if you know the backstory over the fact that these two actors from the first movie were asking for more money. They didn't get it. There was a dispute, and they exited the project. Look, Tony Hale and Liza Lapira are both great, and they're more than capable themselves. Tony Hale is kind of doing his own thing, I'd say, as Fear, where Liza Lapira is kind of evoking Mindy Kaling. So sometimes I had to adjust to the fact that, okay, that's Tony Hale now doing this character, different spin on it. Ultimately, it's still fun and funny. This is a solid debut for director Kelsey Mann. This is his feature debut. He's worked at Pixar, though, for over a decade on a lot of different projects. So, solid sequel was my thought for a lot of this movie. Rehash plot, but still delivering the goods. It is, a crowd pleaser. And then in the final act, that's where those Pixar emotions came into play. That's where they got me. Again, not with the huge sort of sad, oh my God, I don't want to feel this. That some of the Pixar movies can say, I shouldn't say that. I always want to feel it. But, they put you through the ringer sometimes. This one doesn't do that, but it definitely really makes you feel something because, look, this movie is ultimately very directly about battling anxiety. I mean, anxiety is the antagonist here, the one who is leading the charge, forcing out joy and all the other characters from the first movie. And that becomes sort of the battle for Riley. And the movie really makes you invested in Riley's plight and all the relatable things that she's going through, which includes she's going into high school and she wants to get on her school's hockey team and she really desperately wants to be friends with the cool kids, but then she has her middle school friends to kind of contend with, and is she leaving them behind while she tries to become friends with the cool kids? All of that angst. And that's a testament to the writing and directing and the animation. It's also a testament to Kensington Tallman, who voices the character in this film. We care about this girl. And you're getting fully invested in whether this 13-year-old girl can work through her anxiety and her bad impulses and figure out how to make her way in the world. And that is definitely, I think, where you kind of feel the Pixar magic of it all, where that clicks in. So yeah, this is not one of my favorite Pixar movies, but in the realm of Pixar sequels, which I know have been a very mixed batch, certainly Toy Story 2 and 3 being highlights, but then you have stuff like Finding Dory that's just like, oh, it's okay, and Incredibles 2, which really kind of felt disappointing. I think this is a solid middle ground for them. It does not match the first Inside Out, but I think you do come out of it feeling like you got your money's worth, revisiting these characters and revisiting this world. And I did enjoy the journey. I do wonder if they did a third one, what they could do at this point, again, with the limitations of sort of Riley's head, Riley's mind, and the fact that it's one thing to send Buzz and Woody on a different adventure each movie. They get kind of lost and out in the world each time in a different way, but you can put them in a completely different environment. With Inside Out, there's only so much you can do, even though you can kind of introduce some new realms, some new parts of her head, as this film does do in some clever ways, but it does feel like there's not that much more you can do. But hey, I'm not the one being paid to figure that out, and we'll see if they do decide to make it Inside Out 3. But for now, Inside Out 2 is definitely a entertaining movie that I think, does sort of check all the boxes you want, while not being sort of the top level Pixar. So those are my thoughts on a movie that seems like it's going to make a lot of money this weekend. All right, guys, that's it for now. If you can like and subscribe, it'd be much appreciated. I'll be back with more movie reviews. Take care.